Welcome. So in our previous session, we looked at how to save information from our database, our Java program into a database. We manually enter the data as we did here. So we use the CDB object to info the insert data method, and we have the information inserted. All right, so we have done this manually. Now, what if it's the case where we want to get the information, allow the user to enter the data, as is the case over here? So what if we want the user to be able to type in what they want to be saved instead of us hard coding it? Now, in order to do that, we are going to set up a GUI that will allow the user to enter the data. All right, so what we have here is a little panel, and we have this panel is inside of a frame. All right, so I'm going to create another class. In two more classes we're going to be creating. One of them for the frame, and the other is going to be for the panel to get the data. All right, so the frame that we're going to be doing eventually will become our main menu, displaying all of these buttons. All right, so I'm just going to make it empty for now, and then we will create the panel. So stay tuned and let's see how it's done. All right. So here we are going to be creating a new class. And this, I'm going to be calling this one main menu. Eventually, this will be your main menu. And I'm going to create another one. And this is going to be called add frame. All right, so we have add frame and we have the main menu. So first of all, we're going to fix the main menu. So the main menu is going to be a frame. So we're going to just set up our frame. All right, so it's simply going to say public class main menu. Since it's going to be a frame, just going to extend the J frame. Again, you could notice that it's complaining. That means you need to do our import. All right. The asterisk just indicate that we have access to all that is in Swing. All right, so I'm gonna just set up our window, indicate what the close operation should be, and so forth and so on. All right, so I'm gonna just create my my constructor. Public main menu. Remember, the constructor is executed automatically. It's used to set up the object. Once an object of the class is created, it's invoked automatically. So let's say this set default. All right, so I'm setting the default close operation for this frame. All right, that's why we say this. If I leave after this, it will work same way because we're talking about the current object. It's going to be J frame. Yeah, exit and close. So pretty much I'm saying whenever the close button on the frame is clicked, I want the application to exit. I'm going to set the preferred dimension in terms of the width and height of the frame. Dimension object. And for the dimension to work, I need to import java.awt. All right, so notice it's complaining. All right, I need some other things from AWT, so I'm gonna just put a sec. Next, I'm gonna pack. And then I'm gonna make it visible. All right. And I'm gonna set up my main function in this. All right. So inside of main, I'm just gonna create an instance of main menu. All right. All right. So once I create an instance of main menu, it should open up the window for me. All right, so this is the window that we have created. This is our main menu. It's blank. All right, so eventually we will have some options, some buttons and a heading displayed on it that we can use to manipulate the application. All right, so that's how we set up our main frame for our main menu. All right, so this is what we are going to be working with for our main menu. All right, so before we go any further, let's look at the add flim. And what we're seeing here is that the add flim will provide us with an interface that we may use to enter the data. All right. Let's look, before we go on, let's look at something. Let's look back at the one that we are using as our example so we can have an idea in terms of what we're designing. So this is the one that we are working with as an example. So eventually our main menu will look like this. All right, so now it's blank really. So let's click on new. So I want to display an interface like this that will allow the user to type in the FLIMS ID, name, and the year. And when they click on a button, it should be saved. All right, so we're gonna need some labels, like a J label, JText field, and we're gonna need some buttons. All right, so we could include one button to save, one to clear, and perhaps one to close. So let's look at it. All right, so open up add flim, and inside of the add flim, that is where we are going to be setting up our JPanel for our add flim. All right, it's going to be public class add flim. All right, so we have to create the components inside here first of all. All right, so we're going to create the different components that we need. So we need some labels. So one label that we need is going to be the flim label, flim ID label, and flim name label. I'm gonna need a flim year label. Right. Similarly, we need, all right, let's just import this. We go on. So we're getting all of these components from Java extension.swing. We also need some JText field. And so we need a flim ID text, flim name text. We also need a flim year text. All right, so these are some of what we are going to need. We also need some buttons. All right, so we need one for save. We can use one to clear. And let's include one for close. Now, these variables need to be instantiated. So we need to create instance of the objects and store them in these. All right, so inside of our constructor is going to carry the same name as a class. It's public add flim. We're going to be creating instances of a JLabel, a JText field, and J1. All right, so we're going to say flim ID label. It's going to be equal to new JLabel. Inside here, I'm going to specify what should be displayed on the label. For example, you can say flim ID. All right, so this is what the user will see. And I'll have to repeat this for the others. So it's going to be flim name. Instead of ID here, we're going to have name. So I can just change this to flim name. And the next one is the year. Let's change this to flim year. And of course, we need to do the same thing for the JText field. So let's copy and paste and modify. So the flim label, since instead of label, we're going to make it into a text. All right, so just using the same names that we would have up here, flim ID text, and it's going to be JText field. For the JText field, we just indicate the amount of characters, how wide we want the JText field to be. I use 20. All right, so it's saying that flim ID text is undefined. So it's flim. Oh, okay, misspelled the M here. Flim ID text, right? Now we're going to change this from the label to text. Let's see, new J text field. Using 20 for all of them. Remember to change the J label to J text. All right, so we have those components. The next thing that we need to create the instances for are the buttons. So we just need to say save, go to new J button. Inside the bracket, we're gonna just indicate what should be displayed on the button. Say flim. The next one we have is clear. The name of the button is clear. Next one we have is close. Yeah, so all right, so these we have created all the components that are necessary. All right, so The next step is to simply add them to our panel. All right, so the next step is really just to add them to our panel. All right, so let's do that. All right, so we're just gonna say add. And we add them in the order that we want them to be displayed. So add flame ID label, add flame ID text. Oh, this should be in the constructor. Right, so we're just adding them in the same order that we want them to appear on the screen. Okay, remember we were saying that this is a J panel, so I should have also extended the J panel. That's why it's saying that it doesn't know anything about add. So I'm going to say extends J panel. So this is a panel. The other one that we did was a frame. All right. Let's say add. That's the label now for the film name. Then you add the text. Then you're gonna add film year label. I'm gonna add the film year text. And good. And then we can use other buttons. Let's save, add, clear, and add close. So we have added successfully the different components now to our J panel. All right. All right, so now that we have added the components, we will just set the preferred size. I'll set it to 300 by 300 and make it visible. So make it visible. You have to set the visible to be true. And of course, it's complaining because we might not have imported a needed library. In this case, it's the AWT. All right, so just stay here. All right, so this takes care of the panel. It's not finished. All right. But here we have our menu. What we are going to do is that we are going to be creating an instance of the panel that we will then add to the to our JFrame. All right, so we're gonna just do that so you can actually have an idea in terms of what we're doing. All right. So inside of the main menu, all right, so remember that the main menu came up blank earlier on. I can just run by the application so you can see. So here we have the add film. All right, so it will not do anything really. So if we run the main menu, should notice that it comes up blank. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put this add film onto the main menu. All right, so all we're gonna do is inside here, we're gonna just create an instance of the add film. I'm gonna say add film a film equal to new add film. So a flame is now an instance of the add flame panel. So what I can do now to add the a flame or to add the add flame here onto this panel, I would just say add a flame. And when we compile this now, we should be seeing the add flame coming up. All right. So let's run it and see. So there it is. And yes, we agree that these are not really in line as we probably would have wanted to see it. All right. But we can easily align them by using the layout manager. All right. All right, so great. This is what we have so far. So as it is now, if we enter anything here, so if you put in an ID, a flame name, and perhaps a year, you click save, nothing happens. Click clear, click close, nothing happens. All right, so in order for us to add actions to the buttons, what we're gonna have to do is we would have to include include a listener and specify what should happen. So we're gonna look at that quickly as to how we may go about adding a listener to our buttons. All right. Now, in order to add a listener, first we need to do is we need to import java.a.t.event.asterisk. All right. And the next thing that we're going to be doing now is we're going to be adding the listeners to the buttons. All right, so let's just do that before we add the components. All right, so I must also inform you that a listener is going to be a private class. And we're going to call that listener button listener. So I'm going to just add it to these, then we create classes, create a class. So save. So I'm adding it to each button. Save that add action listener. Inside the bracket, we're going to put new button listener. So the button listener is going to be a private class that we will be creating. I'm going to repeat this for the other buttons. Right, so we have added the listener now to the save button. We just need to repeat this for the others. As I mentioned earlier, it's 2 more. All right, good. So just going to change the name of the buttons. So we have the clear, and we have the close. So now the listener has been added. We now have to go about creating the listener class. I'm gonna just get out of the constructor. Anywhere down here, we can create a class. So it's gonna be private class button listener, and it's gonna implement the interface action listener. Because it implements the action listener, we actually have to override a method, an abstract method. So public void action performed action event. All right. So now that we have created the button listener class, all right, so now that we have created the class, you should observe up here that the red lines are gone. All right, so inside here, this is where we will specify the different actions to be performed. All right, so we will pick up on that in our next video, so stay tuned.